Hey, good afternoon, good afternoon. This is Spirit Journey. Today is Sunday, and it is about a little bit after 5 p.m. And I just came from my mom's house. She has a television set, and we were watching the History Channel. And I was watching a program regarding the Industrial Revolution. They featured several prominent families from the 1890s. These were the Vanderbilts, J.P. Morgan, and some other families. And they were talking about the development. Well, you had J.P. Morgan, and they talked about his father, and that J.P. Morgan's father was what people would consider very stern today. And it seemed like a type of rivalry, and the father seemed jealous of the son. I mean, just kind of rubbing it in and trying to emasculate him, it seemed. But he was an intelligent guy, J.P. Morgan. And in short, he was thinking of a way how he could establish himself and have a name for himself. He didn't want to be under his father's shadow anymore. So he spotted Thomas Edison. He wanted to take advantage of what he could invest in. And Thomas Edison showed him one of his inventions that he was working on, the light bulb, the standard light bulb as we know it today. And he thought that he could take this energy, this light bulb, and use it in his home. Like he thought that this light bulb could make him money, that if he could spread this technology to the people, that he could, if he invest in this and have other people use it, he'll be a wealthy man. He can start his empire. And fast forward, he succeeds. What I found interesting about this story was about the different industrialists and how they were just gobbling up each other, and how, like, you had Thomas Edison, and then you had Tesla. And one thing I didn't realize, or I didn't know, I should say, that Tesla worked under Thomas Edison in his laboratory. And then Tesla started his own lab. And in short, Tesla fades out the scene, but there were politics behind it and sabotaged Tesla. You had something, a light bulb, and how different people were trying to just be on top. And the time period this was around 1894, 1896. Now, this was just a couple of years after the end of slavery in the Americas. The last country to end slavery was Brazil in 1888. So, 1894, this is just a couple of years later. So, why I tie that in about the end of slavery? Okay, you had a system that relied on brute strength, the muscles, the endurance of a human being as an energy source. And then you had Thomas Edison with a light bulb, and then you had people thinking of new ways to make money, how to have people become dependent and enslaved to a technology, an energy source. And people prior to that were exploiting the labor and in actual literal slavery of one's body as an energy source, and having it do what they wanted to do at any cost. I used to ask myself, why did slavery end in the Americas? Spain ruled Cuba, and then Cuba eventually got its independence from Spain, but still, just think of it as Spain still, or the U.S. as England's dominion culturally. And what happened? So it's like the first people to establish slavery in the Americas were the Spaniards and Portugal. And interesting, the last two nations to end slavery were those that were ruled by Spain and Portugal. Okay, Portugal was in 1890, let's see, 1884, 1886, maybe 1886, around that time. And then Cuba, 1888, but around the same time period. And the U.S. was in 1861, and then the Civil War ending in 1865 around. But interesting that, so you have the first nations to establish a system in the Americas that lasted several hundred years, and then a switch all of a sudden at the end of the 1800s, and now ushering in the Industrial Revolution with a new slave master, someone who was to take energy sources to the next level. So I was thinking, well, again, why did slavery end? Well, one thing that I'm learning in this search for knowledge and information is that it seems like there are meetings, there are things that go on behind the scenes, and that I was told that technologies are many years in advance. You had the cell phone, but this cell phone was established years before as we know it today. And it seems like technology is trickled down in future years when who decides when they're going to introduce it to the general population. So here, you had a slave system, and then these secret meetings of the people who really control the system say, hey, we're going to change now because we have all these technologies and we're waiting to place it in the general public. So we're not going to need slavery. We're not going to need the force, the bare muscles of a man or woman or child to cultivate the land or to do certain crafts. We'll have machinery because we already have this slotted for this time period. And so you notice that it was the northern states, because the northern states initially had slavery, just like the southeast. But the north ended slavery maybe, I think, 20 years before the southeast. And then industrialization up north in comparison to the South. But then the South had a stronghold. They weren't ready to let go. But the North already had it going. So then you have, boom, the Civil War. So I'm thinking that here, that it wasn't just about morality, what's right or wrong. It's about that someone has a plan about technologies. And there's more money at stake, more money. And a little bit fast forward, okay, that's the 1890s. And then you have the ushering the light bulb. And then they use this energy also to have the railroad systems, invention of gasoline to run engines and cars. So everything seemed to be around that time. And I'm thinking, it's not by accident. It seems like these people at this time were tapping into information, data. Edison and Tesla weren't the only people that knew about electricity. I mean, you had other scientists, but these are the primary ones that you know about. But either still, you had information being poured in at this time, right after the end of slavery in the Americas. And look, that what countries are really prospering in the Americas? But North America, the countries that ended slavery, and what we call Latin America, are countries that presently are not thriving as well as North America. So it's interesting that those people who submitted to the end of slavery, which would be considered crazy in its day, and say, oh, well, technology. What's technology? What's electricity? But you had people who had foresight, or I should say had privy to this information about technologies, things like that. And that is being shared with the people who are insiders. And look how wealthy these people are. But now they have all this respectability. What I was also thinking about all this, what is the next dispensation of technologies? Yeah, you have computers now. You have what they call the smartphones. So again, it's like a little over 100 years since Thomas Edison. And what's the next jump? It seems like there's an intensity and then kind of like a dissolve of something and then something that stands on top of that's even bigger than the predecessor. It seems like war facilitates it. Like you had the Civil War, and then you had World War I, and then World War II. So it's like a 20, 40, or 60-year break in between. Now in the media that they want us to get into a fight with Russia. Now it's the bad guy, Russia. Why? I mean, it's better to learn how to have allies than make enemies. And even with these rivalries with the industrialists of the 1900s, at one point they got together because you had leaders of countries who said, these people are monopolies and we got to get rid of them. They're controlling us. So again, here these industrialists were enemies of each other, and then they came together. Everybody has some type of Achilles heel. Everybody has a vulnerable spot. But I guess why I'm doing this video, I'm seeing how something might appear today as innocent as a light bulb, but how it came to be, and the lives of people who wanted to earn their keep. So, what does this all mean? Well, it seems like there's something about energy, and it seems like energy it's like we want to learn how to enslave energy and have it work for you, and that this energy could actually backfire and you become a slave to this energy. We're enslaved by devices, the smartphones. We're enslaved by cars and oil. And you see, with all these wars, it's about these resources that run them. Like, okay, you have the oil fields in the Middle East. What do people use oil for? To run cars, other types of engines. And so somehow we become its slave, and how it makes people money. And even though these things, or oil, has always been around on the planet, but that when at some point we become aware of how to use something and then exploit it to the maximum, it's really something. How? I guess my question now is, I don't want to be a slave to anything. How is it now that we're dependent on money? We're dependent. We'll kill for money. We do so many things. If you lose your job and you panic, you want to get money, and some people rob banks or rob their neighbor. How, as human beings, can we stop relying on these sources of energy? Money is a currency like electricity, and we're dependent on it. But we're not born, when people came on this world, we weren't enslaved by it. We didn't, again, electricity and these things are new creations. How to not be dependent on this system that's really oppressing all of us, that's forcing us to be separate from our families because you're spending 12, 16 hours at work. Then you have these universities and colleges that promise that if you go to these institutions, it'll help you make more currency/money. Again, as you know, many of us, we may have gone to these institutions and we graduate from them, and there's no promise of the type of currency/money that you thought you were going to get at the end of the rainbow. Many of us are in debt. We can't pay off our student loans, right? So my question is, how do we learn how not to be dependent on the system of currency/money? I've even heard of people who are learning not to eat food, the breatharians, and they're learning about the manipulation of energy through willpower. I don't know how they do it, but they don't require the same amount of, at least the same amount of food. I don't know how they do it, or is it just a trick, or someone's giving them a sugar pill behind your back? I don't know. But I think the real trick in this life is how, because air is free. You go out, you breathe in that air. Why are we in this system? This is what I think I would like to meditate on. How to totally be free. At least minimize the dependency on these tools. Or even, taxes and you buy property, you have to pay taxes on it. It's like we're always in debt. How can we break the debt? So that's all that I want to share today. I know I was kind of all over the place, but shouldn't this really be what we should be focusing on? Even the church has us in debt. We have to give them 10% of our money. But what do we get out of it? Absolutely nothing. So, let me know what you think. You could share your comments below. You could share this video with your friends or family members. You could subscribe to Spirit Journey. And once again, you can give me the thumbs up if you like this video. And I hope you do like it. So take care and enjoy the rest of your day. See you.